Do you know what the most underrated tool for weight loss is? The answer may surprise you. Hey, I'm Mike.
And I'm Toying.
Welcome to another episode of 40 Plus Fit, the podcast where we unpack the science of sustainable weight loss and fitness for those over 40. Today, we're going to have a conversation about the most underrated tool you have right now for weight loss. Our in-house coach, Twain, is a renowned fitness expert with years of experience helping people achieve their health goals. With his knowledge and insights, we'll uncover the science behind this tool and separate fact from fiction. All good today, Twain.
Yeah, man, I am doing great. Doing great.
Doing
We
great.
we are trying to tackle a really clickbaity title today, right?
We're trying. We're seeing if we can actually join this crowd that are doing so well with this kind of things. But
Yeah.
regarding the episode, I think today we're going to be a little bit different from the usual way.
Mm-hmm.
Today's more going to be just a general conversation between us guys, and
Yeah.
hopefully the people can learn from this. But what we're going to talk about is something that's, as the title said, a very underrated tool when it comes to weight loss. Because whenever we talk about weight loss, the first thing we go to is always diet, or it goes to resistance training, it goes to heavy cardio workouts in the gym, all these different kinds of things. But those all require you to have a gym membership,
Yeah.
right? So the thing we're talking about today, you don't even need that gym membership. You just need yourself and some time. And what is this thing that we're going to talk about?
Well, I think a lot of people think it's going to be something, maybe a supplement, maybe some sort of secret hack. Well, in a way, it might be a hack if I think about it. But it really is just plain old bus 11. That's what I like to call it. I term it bus 11. Basically it's walking.
Walking.
It's just walking. And I know many people that are listening to this might even be thinking like what the hell, like how can something I do to transport me from one place to the other possibly have any significant impact on my weight loss or my fat loss, right? But the truth is, it really is. It really is one of the biggest things, and I really honestly, hand to my heart, think that it is one of the most underrated tools that people are not using, are not taking seriously enough.
So, in full transparency, is we were actually having this conversation before this podcast, right?
Yeah,
And I was
I mean, we
sharing,
had something else planned, right? We
yeah,
were
we had
going to
something
talk
else planned for the
about
day.
yeah, some other topic, but this just came about, and it felt right. It felt
Mm.
right to talk about it.
So I was busy sharing with Twain about my journey because previously what I would always do is I would rely on my resistance training and everything because I have a very set schedule that I do. And so my body is sort of accustomed to that. And I would say to a degree, my weight management is reliant on the particular exercise that I was doing because it has gotten used to that. And so, not too long ago, I got a shoulder injury, which has kept me out of the gym.
Hmm.
Has it completely kept me out of the gym, or have I used it as an excuse to keep out of the gym? It's probably the former, but more so the latter. And so because of that, now I haven't changed my eating habits, haven't changed anything else. Obviously, I've packed on a few kilos. So with that, I was actually listening to a conversation or reading an article. I can't remember now. Or saw a video in my TikTok education. I can't remember. But the people were talking about like you should never focus on what you can't do. You should always focus on what you can do. So what do you have available to you right now that you can actually do? And so I was thinking through this and through discussions with Twain in the past, I remembered, hey, when we always advise people, we always advise them just up your step count.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, so let me try that out. So I've only taken 1 week. I'll be honest here. I've only taken 1 week so far of doing this. In my past, I'd average about 4.5 to 5,000 steps a day. But that's obviously on top of my resistance training and all the other stuff that I do. So I haven't changed anything lifestyle wise. The only thing is I doubled my step count. So I've made an average of just over 10,000 steps each day so far this week. And the result this morning was that I had lost, I was just sharing with Twain, I had lost 2 cm around my belly and I had lost 1 kilo. That's just purely from walking with no other lifestyle changes. Does this
Yeah.
line up?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And for those of you listening, I mean, look, like the context is this, right? Mike didn't change anything else. All he did was, well, not all he did, but I mean, it's a significant change. But he doubled up his step count. He went from like 4.5 to 5 to just over 10,000 a day. And so that's doubling up his step count, doubling up his relatively low intensity activity. Mike, you got in your steps via like a combination of jogging as well, right? I believe, and just regular walking stuff.
Yes. So what I would do is I would go for a 10-minute run in the morning. As soon as I wake up, I just go for a quick 10-minute run. That gives me about 2,000, 2,500 steps. Then what I would do is in the evening, I'd go play some tennis with the family.
Yep.
And then if I still have steps counts left over, is that after dinner, instead of watching K-drama, settling down and just vegetating on the couch, I would just go for a walk, enjoy the cool weather outside, because you're living in tropical country,
Yeah.
the wind outside actually helps a lot. And so I'd just go for a walk around like that, just to make sure that I tally up the.
Yeah. Yeah. This definitely lines up a lot with so many of the clients that we see. The cool part is that a large percentage of the clients that come to us are actually not very active in the first place. So these are like really low-hanging fruit that they can do. And of course, we can talk about the whole 10,000 number later. But you don't actually have to like hit 10,000. The cool part is that you kind of start from where you're at and you can add as much as like, or as little rather, as like 2,000 extra to it, just to already start seeing some benefits. You might not get the same level of like drop that Mike does because the people that get this kind of drop, we do see, okay, a fairly dramatic increase in the number of steps. So we're talking about anywhere between like well, Mike's increase is like 100%, but anywhere between like, I would say a 60 to 100% kind of increase, we start to see these kind of drops, a kilo down over the week. Um, um, assuming the diet hasn't changed, right? So kilo down over the week, and then some sort of waist and measurement decrease as well. Yeah, so it's pretty common. And again, this just comes from increasing the step count. And for some people, it could be something as simple as trying to find a way to do this extra like 20 to 30 minutes of walking in the day. And for some people, literally, some of them, what they do is early morning, they get up that extra 20 minutes earlier. They just kind of like get up while they're half asleep and then go out for a walk. While they're kind of half asleep, and then halfway through it, they're already like suddenly waking up, and then by the time they reach back, they're like, oh, cool,
Guilty.
okay. By the time they reach back, okay, morning routine, everything as per normal, get to work.
Yeah.
And before they even start their day, they already have added this extra in already. So it's really one of those things that anybody could really do.
So you touched on a point there, and you said it's like 10,000 is the magic number, right? Because it's always thrown out there. It's always,
Yeah.
but I just want to clarify here.
Yeah.
This is just me thinking through. If
Yeah.
I'm averaging 2,000 steps a day and I
Yeah.
push those 2,000 to say 4,000,
Yeah.
am I going to see as a similar kind of result as like what I'm experiencing, where I went from 4.5 to 5, from 4.5 to 5 to
Four and a half,
10?
5 to 10, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because they're
Um,
still doubling,
Yeah,
right?
I think percentage-wise, it seems like it should be comparable.
Mm.
I think effect-wise, like absolute effect-wise, probably not as intense. Just because the total amount of steps that you take, the magnitude of the amount of steps you take still matters quite a bit. So you can't just say like percentage-wise, right? I mean that's kind of how statistics work, but
Mm.
where people again totally unrelated, but where people put in the headlines, things like tomatoes, no, not tomatoes, like sausages or like barbecued sausages or red meat increases your risk of cancer by 50%. And then you find out that your risk of cancer is like 1.3% in the average person. And then like by 50%, it means it goes from 1.3 to 2%. It's like, okay, the magnitude isn't that intense. Obviously, somebody that's going from 2 to 4 is not going to experience the same levels of difference as somebody that's going from like 5 to 10. I mean, let's make that clear.
Yeah.
But what kind of difference can you get from just increasing from 2 to 4? Like it's actually quite substantial if it's consistent enough. It might be, let's say 5 to 10 is the 100% optimal amount of increase you would see. 2 to 4 might be something like 20% of that, which is not a bad deal, right? You think about it, it's not a bad deal. So it's still substantial. It's definitely way more than 0%, and not doing it. So yeah, like easy stuff, right? And again, the extra 2,000 steps for most people, in terms of a brisk walk, it's like 15 minutes
Yes.
extra. If you have a little bit of a speedier movement, it might be even 10 minutes to get 2,000. Yeah, a light jog, really. But I think whatever it is, let's start from where you're at and slowly add that up.
So I think that's an important part that you brought up there, right? Is when we're talking here about using walking as a tool for weight loss, we're not talking about a leisurely stroll, looking at the flowers. smelling this
Mm.
one, picking that. We're actually talking about a brisk walk. There's a certain like level that you're expected to be walking at in order to really
Yeah.
achieve these kind of fat
I,
loss
I I would
goals.
say that's more of a time efficiency thing. Like you could technically stroll,
Okay.
but um, I mean, you're going to take a lot more time to clock up the steps if you do it that way. Yeah, and
Okay,
most
so
people
we
can
basically
still.
just at the end of the day looking at the amount of steps. That's it. It's not really about pushing the heart rate or anything like that.
No, not at all. Because the whole point of walking and why we say it's underrated fat loss too is because a lot of people don't actually feel tired or
Mm.
fatigued from walking. And many people think that's a bad thing. People translate that into thinking that, oh, it means that I'm not doing anything for my health. But the reality is that you're actually doing, it's like the best thing you could do. You're getting this extra movement and volume of movement in that's going to have these like, little like small magnitude stimulus effects, but you do enough volume of that, it actually compounds all together. So not only do you get the comparable stimulus of fat loss, like a comparable stimulus related to the fat loss, but you also don't get all the negative like fatigue stuff, the tiredness that comes with just doing really, really vigorous cardio and exercise.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you still want to do vigorous cardio and exercise. Like that's still what we will recommend because those bring about a much stronger change in the body, a stronger stimulus to the body to elicit the change. But for most people, I think the recovery side of things, especially the older we get, again, this is 40 plus fit, right? So the
Yep.
older we get, we have to honor the recovery side of the equation a lot better. We are no longer like 20-year-old young bucks that can just do whatever, go to sleep, don't sleep enough, and wake up the next day being like, oh, you man, I still can take on the world, right? So
You do
so
point
that
there that it's like
yeah,
it doesn't take as much, right?
yeah, it doesn't take
So there our recovery is a lot better. But I will say is that since I've upped my steps to more than to what I have now, I
yeah.
sleep a lot better. Like I have the monitor. I mean, these things are not 100% accurate, but they do give you some kind of consistency and you get some kind of idea.
Yes.
So previously my sleep score was usually about 70. But this week it's always been low to mid 90s.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's
Quite
really
well.
good. Very good. And also, I want to touch on the fact that that's actually pretty common as well.
Mm.
And low intensity activity itself, like generally low intensity activity, when done in higher volumes, and they use step count as the proxy for this in a lot of the studies. They actually do see these kind of improvements in terms of like sleep quality improving as well. The hypothesis and some of the proposed findings and rationale for that is generally the increase in doing all this low intensity like walking stuff tends to help uh, encourage the nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system to kind of help with the recovery component of things. So in a way, it kind of makes you calmer. It has all these kind of like doubling up effects where it makes you a bit calmer, makes you a little bit more like especially if you do it after dinner, right? It allows you to kind of like wind down a
Yep.
little bit, allows you to sort out your thoughts and then get ready to end the day kind of thing.
Mm.
If at the beginning of the day, it also kind of helps you start out the day, just kind of like planning ahead, sorting out your thoughts. Same thing. Walking is actually one of the best ways to, in a way, do some sort of meditation. And I put that in inverted commas because a lot of times people think of meditation as like sit down, form little like finger gestures and then say Om all day. That's probably only one variation of meditation. There's so many different types, but meditation is essentially just allowing your mind to kind of like to in a way practice mindfulness, I suppose. But just kind of allowing yourself to practice that organization of your thoughts, and doing like walking out and about allows you to actually do that quite a bit. Yeah.
Right. So my next question would be is like when you're going to the gym, right? And you're
Hmm.
building muscle, you'll usually build, 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 build. You'll hit a plateau. You need to change things. You build, build, build,
Yeah.
build.
Yeah.
Now, does the same effect happen with just walking? Is there like a plateau that you hit and where your weight loss will stagger, or will it always continue to go as long as you're consistent with it?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question, to be honest. There are a few things to look at from this perspective. Yes, your weight loss eventually will plateau if you only depend on walking, right? You reach a stage where you can take more steps, and in the short term, you might get a small spike, but then your body will quickly adapt to that. Again, the body's really efficient at this, and you can look no further than some of the research from what's the guy's name? Herman Pond Ponzer. the OG granddaddy of metabolic studies. He basically went to live with like the Hasda tribe. So these are people that clocked, in terms of step count, they clock 18,000 to 30,000 steps a day. They're hunter-gatherers, right? And you would think that, oh, these people doing this insane amount of activity daily would, be burning a ton of calories. But
Yep.
what he did is they did the metabolic ward studies with them, and they found that their average metabolic rates were not very different from your average office worker that's the same size
Oh,
and weight equated. Yeah. That's how efficient the body is in terms of metabolism. And this again goes back to why we always talk about don't depend on exercise to burn calories,
mm,
right? Because it reaches that threshold point. I mean, if you think about it, it cannot be linear. If not, we would have died out. You
that's
just
right.
imagine, think about that, right? Like we will not be able to survive in conditions, evolutionary speaking, if where food is scarce. Nowadays, it's hard to imagine because food is like literally a button away, one Uber app away, right? Or one Grab delivery app, whatever. Um, but in times where there's like you cannot find food and stuff like our body needs to be able to sustain itself in a certain way. And so, yeah, so there's definitely a point where doing more is not going to help. It really isn't. And also, I think logistically, it just doesn't make sense for a lot of people. So they will hit that point where yes, more steps not gonna be better. Where is that point exactly? It's hard to say, to be honest. But I think everybody knows so-called the 10,000 steps kind of like arbitrary standard, right?
Mm,
And the funny thing is how that in and of itself kind of came about, which we can talk about in a second. But in terms of the weight loss plateau itself, once you've hit, I would say again, roughly this 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 step count, you could try to go a bit higher for like small periods of time to bring things down. And we do that for like bodybuilding specific preparation. But for the average person just looking for general health and fitness, I probably wouldn't recommend going much more beyond the 10K steps unless you actually have the time and there's a way you can put it into your daily life. Okay, if you can't, don't bother beyond that. Yeah. The other way that you can actually experience a weight loss plateau is if you're actually very successful in losing weight. Okay. When you lose weight, first of all, when you lose weight, you become a smaller size of mass. Okay,
yeah.
so you already burn lesser calories. That's a large portion of why people's like maintenance calories or the amount of calories required goes down already. Okay, so that's a very big chunk. The other part of it is also because you're now smaller in size and you're moving around the same 10,000 steps, for example, this same 10,000 steps doesn't quite expend the same level of energy. Again, because you're smaller in size, right?
Yeah.
So less work done. And so one way we work around this, and I suggest this to clients as well, is that you could try to like wear a backpack. If you have a weighted vest, okay, even better, but you don't really have to go and get one, just like kind of wear a backpack, put some additional weight in there, to equate the amount of weight loss and then just clock your steps. Clock a majority of the steps that way. So that's one way to kind of work around it as well. Yeah, so definitely you will experience some sort of weight loss plateaus when you include this in as with any kind of tool. And then I would say once this you hit that threshold point where adding in more steps and the trade-off of adding in more steps is that you're going to take a lot more time. It's just not realistic for a lot of people or practical. Then probably not, like, don't even do that. Then really focus more on the diet side of things and other factors.
So when you talk about the plateaus, right?
Yeah.
Um, is it like similar? Will the body adapt as quickly and similarly timed for somebody who says like is 18% body fat, like a guy? Let's talk completely about men here.
Yeah.
A man with 18% body fat is walking. Will he
Okay.
plateau more or less at the same time as say somebody who's 30% body fat?
Will will he plateau if somebody has 30% body fat?
Or would the one that's 30%, would he actually experience a lot more weight loss as he goes along, goes along, goes along, compared to the guy at 18%?
That's actually a really interesting question. Are they both starting at the same weight then?
At the same weight? I
Yeah, because
I
let's say
think that's
somebody at
debatable.
like 70 kilos
Yeah,
at 18% has a very different body composition from somebody that's 70 kilos at 30%.
correct. So
Because
let's
the
call them
because
same weight.
yeah.
Because let's say one is like obese, and the other one is you know just probably not even at overweight levels, but is like leanish, but wants to drop that the weight. for
Ah,
summer or for bodybuilding or whatever it is, whatever his reason is for it, will they plateau at similar times, or will the one at 30% body fat, will he continue to lose more until say maybe 20%, where the guy at 18% can only lose maybe till 15%, and then he needs to change things up already?
I think you can see the silence here. I'm just really thinking about this because the question itself, I'm wondering even like what the actual question is. So the question itself is then, um, do you hit a do you actually hit a plateau faster the leaner you get?
Yes.
That's what I'm getting from the question, right? Um, and if in this, yeah, that's definitely a fact. Like the leaner you get, the more you need to be particular about the things that you do in order to lose fat. Now, I'm not just talking about weight loss, but like lose fat. Because I think that's what most people are concerned with, right? So yeah, definitely you will need to change things up the leaner you get.
Mm,
Now, the walking, again, when you add it in, you only know when you hit the plateau, when you hit the plateau. But in terms of experience, yeah, if you're at a higher body fat percentage, you definitely have a lot more that you can lose. And so it's very unlikely you will hit that plateau very quick compared to somebody that's like leaner, you
mm.
know. Yeah. So
Because I,
like
yeah, so
uh,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say like so like for myself, for example, I don't know what's my body fat percentage, okay, but um uh when I'm like in the tail end of my diet and I'm trying to get like at least photo shoot lean, which would be sub like at least 10% body fat.
Mm,
My step counts usually already somewhere around like 14K to 15K, not including cardio, and then I'm doing cardio on top of that. So you can see like you have to do extra steps
yeah.
to kind of really get to that level. I mean, some people don't have to, and I mean I'm there's a given already, and my diet's already at a certain level, so so yeah, you have to put these extra steps in once you reach that point. But I would say for the average person, like no one's really looking to get 10%. I think everybody likes the idea of being at 10%, but it's really not something that most people will find a worthy trade-off in terms of the level of like, discomfort they might go through, or even just like yeah, the sacrifices so-called they have to make. I mean, I put that in inverted commas because everything's a choice, really, right? And I like it, and I enjoy being at that kind of body fat level because for me it's actually quite enjoyable. I like the process of it,
Mm,
and I don't feel bad at all when I'm at that level. Other people, and this could be a genetic thing, it could also be a mindset thing, it could be a combination of all these things. But there are some people who, even just going from 18% down to 15% represents a very drastic change in their kind of lifestyle that they're used to. So then it becomes difficult, right? Like to so-called make it sustainable. Yeah. So I think there is, the leaner you get, you're definitely going to have to do more things.
okay. With regards to men and women, does walking play any different part uh, in their fat loss journey, or is it pretty much equitable results?
I would say for the average sedentary individual, it's probably equitable. But the leaner you get and the more extreme you get, right? Like, yeah, those differences tend to become a little bit more pronounced, I think. For ladies in general, you need to do a lot more steps that I've noticed, or you have to do a lot more cardio just because number one, for most ladies, the recovery capacity tends to be higher. Like ladies just recover better.
Mm,
Okay, let's put it this way. Biologically, ladies are a lot hardier than men are from the systems perspective. Uh, you can't really deny that, like in the research, right? So they can recover faster, but that's also a downside because that means they're way more efficient. So you have to do more to burn more to push more change, so to speak. So
mm,
that's kind of one thing really working against them. I've seen like for some of the ladies that I've had to train last time, to prepare them for competitions, some of them had to do like 18,000 steps a day, some of the and this is also because a lot of the ladies tend to be really like smaller in size. Just generally across the board, they're just smaller in size. You're talking they are all like 50 plus kilos. Some of the bottom end lightweights are really like 40 some. They're trying to get to 45 kilos, 42 kilos, 40 kilos, whatever it is to get like really lean for competition. So when you're that light, 10,000 steps does nothing. 10,000 steps is like an 80 kilos person. I mean, obviously it's not directly one-to-one comparison, but like an 80 kilo person taking like 4,000 steps. You know, so yeah, so you had talking about like they had to 22,000 steps a day or something, you know, like something ridiculous like this. And
Mm.
that's why it's yeah, that's why it's a lot of it's like, okay, you need to not just nail the diet, you need to add all these things up there. So if you see a lady that's really like lean and ripped, I mean, sure, you can always say it could be genetics, and it probably is a factor there, but a large part of that is probably also their work ethic and how active they are in the day and all that sort of stuff, you know, and what they eat, and they've really got it all sorted out in that
Mm.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, just two things. One is there was a fact that I actually read not too long ago that said that on physical aspects, right, in physical competition,
Yeah.
men will outrank women in
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
Up until ultra marathon racing or something like that, which is like races that are 190
High
kilometers
endurance work.
plus.
High
So,
endurance work. Yeah.
so for
Ultra high
one,
endurance.
my question was, who runs 190 kilometers? What person in their right mind? But on two, I found that quite interesting is that actually women can compete and oftentimes beat men at those
Ultra timings. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean to be fair, the ultra timings are still held by men. Um, but they're pretty close if I'm not wrong. Again, this is not really my realm of expertise, but I do have some small interest in it because it's one of the things that I'm actually looking um to maybe pursue once I'm done with bodybuilding. I imagine in the future, possibly I might pursue it. Even though I hate running. I know it sounds funny, like I hate running, but just the idea of being able to do something ridiculous like that just appeals to
I
me.
think you should rather go and canoe across the Pacific or something like that.
Hey, I used to be a dragon boater as well,
Yeah.
so
So
um,
we're
yeah,
a bit strapped for time here. So I just wanted to
sorry.
follow up then with the actual question. Was that, for somebody now who's listening to this that's saying, oh, okay, I can use weight loss or I can use walking as a weight loss
Yeah,
tool.
yeah.
Um, what would your advice be from your experience with people that you've worked with? If I now go and I'm just doing walking, when, if and when should I now start looking at diet as well to accompany the
Ah,
weight loss?
gotcha, gotcha. Okay, honestly, first thing, if weight loss is the goal, okay, not even weight loss, fat loss, right? Like
Yeah,
fat loss is the
right.
goal. Regardless, you want to trim down, you have to watch your diet. Like you really have to, because there's nothing that is as effective as controlling your diet. Okay, watching what you put in your mouth. Honestly, there's nothing else that's as effective. Now, assuming you already are doing that, yeah, how do you introduce walking into your life? Right? How do you introduce the extra activity into your life? I think the best advice I can give you is think about where in your day-to-day routine can you inject small pockets of like 5 to 10 minute walks. Okay, first of all, most people can do that post meals, and it's actually a really good way to help with overall digestion and improving nutrient sensitivity and managing blood sugar post meals as well. So this means less crashing, better energy. You know, you don't get that food coma, especially after lunch. This is super important, really, and it can make that big difference in terms of how you feel, in terms of energy wise. And once you start implementing that, it starts to have those other like positive effects that, allow you to take better actions throughout the rest of the day. So I would say try to find these little pockets where you can just kind of do them. So doing them after meals, fantastic option. 5, 10 minutes, very, very, really good. You do that, let's say after lunch, after dinner, that's already extra 20 minutes, right? And that's 2 to 3 thousand steps extra already from what you're already doing in your day to day. Then the other tip I would say is you want to think about where in your day you can try to slip it in that way it's not so intrusive. And so that will be example, if you drive to work, maybe parking at the furthest part of the parking lot so that you have to walk all the way to the office door, so
Yeah.
you extend these kind of things. You don't take the lift, you take the stairs. It sounds super cliche, but it really does help. All these little things that we feel like, oh, what's the point of taking the lift versus the stairs? Like, hey, you think about it, like you go to the office building, you take the stairs up, then you take the stairs down. You go when you go for lunch, and then you come back from lunch, you take stairs up again, then you take stairs down again, at the end of the day when you're leaving for work, right? Assuming you don't take any more trips up and down. That's already like 4 rounds you're going up and down, right? So that adds at least another 1,000 steps, at least. And then when you talk about taking a toilet break, take a few more toilet breaks throughout the day, you're gonna add these up. It's gonna help. It really is gonna help. So these are probably my two biggest tips there. The last one, and I think the most important one, is that there's this whole idea of like the 10,000 steps is the goal, right? And yes, if you can, I would say, yeah, just strive towards that. It's probably a good idea. In the research, they see the marginal increases of like every 2,000 steps extra seems to have a kind of a decrease in the health risk factors. Okay, and then the range that they found is anywhere between like 5 to 10,000 steps. It's a range. So as long as you're kind of within that range on average, you're probably good to go. You're probably good to go. Do you need to go much more beyond 10,000? On average, probably not, but individual specific, you might have to, especially if you're really trying to push things and you really want to get a little bit more and squeeze the juice out of like the walking side of the equation. But yeah, look, it's 10,000 is fairly arbitrary. In fact, it was based on a marketing campaign. It just came out from the Tokyo Olympics, I think, way back in like 1960 or something like this. I could be wrong, just fact check me. But it's like they did this marketing campaign because the Japanese character for like 10,000 represents a person walking. That's literally how it came about. I remember this part about it because that's good marketing, isn't it? So it's important to remember that like this number is just an arbitrary number. Okay, just kind of fall within a range and you're good. If you can do more, do more. But not at the expense of like really inconveniencing yourself. Like if you have to do more walking and you have to give up doing actual cardio, doing actual exercise, lifting weights in the gym, oh please don't do that. Go and do the weights in the gym. Go and do the actual cardio. Yeah, instead of the walking. Okay.
I just want to touch on your point there with regards to the how much a diet plays a part, right?
Yeah.
So I visited our dear friend's AI, one of the AI platforms, and I typed in a scenario with
Yeah.
regards to this kind of thing, and I said like, okay, I'm starting at this X amount, I want to end at this X amount. What is the time frame that you're going to allow for me to be able to? And then they break it down and they say, like, okay, if you're increasing in your steps this amount time over here, you're basically breaking this amount of calories per day, blah 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 blah. And they came to the thing is that, okay, to reach this particular goal, it's going to take 13 and a half weeks, right? If you're
Mm,
just focusing on walking. So then I said, okay, what if I add in an element of diet? And it brought it down just at, I think it was 300 calories less per day diet. It brought it down from 13 and a half to 6. So instead of 13 and a half weeks to reach your goal, it would actually take 6 weeks to reach that goal,
yeah.
according to the AI platform.
Yeah. I mean that's not too far off, man. I'm yeah. That's how powerful diet is, really. So
Yeah.
like diet equal weight loss. Okay. That's really the main thing you want to think about here. And then like sustainability of the weight loss, that's weights. That's lifting weights because weights strengthens your body, gives you all the material that helps you, sustain that weight loss, keeps you active. Yeah, and just allows you to use all the nutrients that you're bringing in a lot better.
But it's also true that with, and this might be a bit off topic for the conversation today, but we can probably end it on this, is that
Yeah.
when you're doing weights as well, that increases your muscle mass, which also increases your BMR.
To a large, I mean, sorry, to some degree, but
Mm,
actually it's not as much as people think. Like if
okay.
you were to do the actual calculation in terms of like and the actual amount of muscle that's needed to burn that corresponding amount of calories. Let's say for about I think 300 calories or so extra, you need to gain, I believe, and again I could be off on my calculations, but I believe it's somewhere between 20, like around 20 kilos of muscle, which is a lot, right? But this is just only talking about muscle, the amount of calories muscle actually expands just by existing versus let's say a fat, the same amount of fat,
Mm.
that's the amount of calories required to sustain that. But there's also all these other flow-on effects that muscle has, in terms of increased activity, increase like, it helps them, okay, basically it helps increase metabolism through other means than just its own caloric expenditure. Let's just put it that way.
All right, awesome. I think we've run out of time here.
Yeah.
But I think this is the first episode we've ever actually come close to being on time. So,
Yeah.
so I think we can pat
Yeah.
ourselves on the back
And
for
and
that.
and it's also very off the cuff, to be honest.
Yeah, it's very
I
off the
mean, I'm
cuff.
sure those people listening might kind of hear that, but I thought it was a really, really good topic to talk about. Since we were in the zone, we were talking about it. I figured, hey, why not just turn on the mics and let's just run with it, you know? Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll call it there for today.
Yep.
Do you have any closing thoughts quickly while
No, I think I've said what I needed to. And as always, like if you guys have any questions, again, this was not a prepared episode at all, so we probably missed out on a whole bunch of stuff, might say stuff that might pique your interest. If any questions, any comments, hey, just send them over and then we will probably get to them in a separate podcast.
yeah. We will probably have another podcast like this in about a month or two where we will probably recap, okay, what are the actual results now from all of
Yes,
this extra walking, and we'll get back to you and inform how
yes, definitely.
real life
Definitely.
scenarios. All right, but that's a wrap then on today's exploration into the walking as a weight loss tool. Highly recommended from what we've seen and from what I've seen
Highly, highly,
uh,
highly recommended.
in the beginning stages. So if you've got anything from this, do like it, share it with friends. We'll appreciate the follow on Spotify or on YouTube. And if you want any other information regarding these kind of things, you can also check out our website at 40plusfit.com.
Awesome.
Other than that, we'll see you in the next episode and keep moving.